Good morning, everybody. My name's Sean Masters from Brain Clear. And this morning, I'm going to share with you some tools and techniques that could be useful to you over the coming months. So I've been doing a lot of listening and a lot of observing over the last few weeks, understanding how the business community and experts within it, especially around communication, are talking about adapting and maneuvering. There are several key themes that are being repeated at the moment, specifically around empathy and guidance and clarity, which are all rooted in the now. But what I want to focus on today is how you pivot your marketing and positioning to fit the post-pandemic world. Because the one thing that everyone is agreeing on is that people's questions and their needs will be different, and obviously different markets will have different challenges. And when we're out the other end of this strange social experiment, where do you want to be standing? Because now is the time to be planning your position. So with that in mind, I've got a few slides I want to share with you. So if you bear with me for a moment. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Right, as you know, we are all online now, and virtually all interactions are being made remotely, including this one. The good news is there are literally thousands of digital tools that help you get in front of and engage with customers. And this, to illustrate this is the Martech 5000. And in fact, this is from April last year. So there's actually over 7,000 on here. And these are marketing products covering everything from email marketing to video advertising, social marketing, and sales automation, and a whole host more. And there are a lot of these tools, and a lot of them are great. But in my experience, they're only really as good as the strategy that is fed into them. And that strategy is only as good as the clarity and the direction of the organization. And at the other end of this, you have human beings that we're engaging with. Intelligent, emotionally driven creatures going about their busy lives, or at least they were until recently. But then they will be again. And in whatever capacity that is, the principle is the same here. These tools are there to connect you and what you do and why you do it to what matters to people in their lives. And why is connecting at an emotive level so important? To help answer that, here's a bit of neuroscience from Daniel Kahneman, who wrote Thinking Fast and Slow. For those who are not familiar with this, Daniel argues that the brain has two systems. You have system 1, the primitive brain, and system 2, your advanced brain. In system 1, it is your unconscious part of you, your autopilot. It's fast and it's associative with particular situations. It's all about intuition and gut instinct. And then you have your advanced brain. This is your rational thinking. It is slower. It takes a lot more effort and a lot more energy. It's a lot more logical in its approach, but it's also indecisive. Yet, 95% of our decisions are made in system 1. Everything from choosing to buy an ice cream to choosing who you're going to marry. And nobody goes into either of those two situations brandishing a spreadsheet. It all comes from gut instinct, and it feels like the right decision. So with this in mind, here's some takeaways I'm going to share with you about that are going to help you think about your marketing and your positioning in a different way over the coming months. So when we work with our clients, we use this compass to view their organization through. We use these different lenses. We have a product lens, a positioning lens, a people lens, and a personality lens. So with product, it's all about what the product is, why it's better than the competition, and how you substantiate that. With the positioning lens, it's all about the market status and the competition and competing factors. The people lens is, who are they? Who are we talking to? Why do they care? What are their drivers? What are the types of relationships that you have? And then personality. This is all about culture. But within there is tone of voice, persona, and values. So for today, what I've done is I've chosen one tool from each of these that I'm going to share with you, starting with product. Okay, so this is beyond the list. Almost every organization has a product list. And obviously, the larger the organization, the more complex the product portfolio, but the principle is the same. Here are a few examples of what I mean. If you have a fitness business, you might have a product list that looks a bit like this. So it might be membership, one-to-one coaching, classes, injury clinic, nutrition, tracking, etc. If you are a SaaS product, or if you have a SaaS product, it will be the user app, user web system, analytics dashboard, support services. Or if you're a membership organization, it might be training and networking and events and accreditations, awards and medals and journals. Now, these lists are great at helping people understand where the edges are and what to expect from you, but they're not necessarily very good at helping people make a decision. And what interests them is what's beyond the list and what's in it for me. So to help us get there and avoid cliches along the way, we use a technique called the drill bit analogy. Now, this is from an economist called Theodore Levitt, who said, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit, they want a 1/4-inch hole. Now, we love this analogy, but we take it several steps further. So for example, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit, they want a 1/4-inch hole. They do, but they also want to be able to put a shelf up. But they don't just want to be able to put a shelf up, they want to get stuff off the floor and have a nice, tidy room. But actually, they don't really just want a nice, tidy room. What they really want is the pride and the satisfaction of being able to put the shelf up themselves. But really, it's beyond that as well. What they really want is the respect and adulation from friends and family who have seen them put the shelf up. Otherwise, we could employ someone to do the job for us. It's that emotional hit that really we're after from buying this. So this is a great technique to get you to a place beyond what you would normally say. Avoid those cliches and have some authenticity to it as well. So going back to our examples, this is how they can reframe their product offering. So our fitness business can say that it's about them building a happier, healthier you. And that's easy to break down because if you use these products and services, you become healthier, but you don't just benefit physically, you also benefit emotionally and mentally as well. You have better well-being. So you're happier in yourself, but also you're able to manage situations better as well. So it's a better you in general. For our SaaS product, it might be about enhancing trust and transparency with your customers, going beyond what most SaaS products say, which is about saving time and money. And for membership organizations, it could be helping you to thrive throughout your career. So it's not about the here and now. This is about us working together to get you through your career in the best possible way. So these are great techniques, and as I say, you can see how they've been used here. Okay, moving on to positioning. This is my favorite strategy canvas. I know you're not supposed to have one, but this is mine anyway. And it's taken from a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, which is a good read. And the blue ocean strategy that's referred to in the book goes something like this. You have a red ocean and you have a blue ocean. The red ocean is where the majority of us are, fighting tooth and nail for attention and trying to beat the competition. And then you have the blue ocean, which is you lying on a lilo, drinking a pina colada, soaking up the sun, because essentially there is no competition. Now, obviously, this isn't how the authors would describe this, but you get the idea. It helps create and capture new demand in an uncontested space. So to help you understand how you can use this, I've got an example I'm going to share from the book, and it's Yellowtail wines. Hopefully this is a brand you'll be familiar with. This is how they came to dominate the market. So the canvas works like this. On the left-hand side, you have a low to high ratio, and along the bottom, you have competing factors. In the case of the wine market, they competed on price, enological language, which is the language of wine, and the distinctions between those wines, the above-the-line marketing, aging quality, vineyard prestige and legacy, wine complexity, and wine range. This was pretty much how most wines would compete. When the producers of Yellowtail looked at the market, they identified two competitor groups, premium and budget wines, both competing using these factors. But crucially, though, they also looked at the beer and cocktail market to understand the popularity there and their own competing factors. And this gave them a new perspective on how to go to market and exploit an untapped demand. So this is what Yellowtail did. They positioned themselves at a higher price point than the budget wines to distinguish themselves there, but then they removed any real reference to enological language or any distinctions between the wines. They didn't do above the line marketing. They didn't really look at aging quality. There was a little bit of vineyard prestige, wine complexity, and wine range, but where they really focused and found the space in was that, and using their understanding of the beer and cocktail market, was that it was easy to drink. So they promoted this easy drinking wine. There was also easy selection as well. So when they launched, there was only 2 wines. There was a Shiraz and there was a Chardonnay. And now I think they've only got 5 in the range. But most importantly, it was all about fun and adventure. And that's something they pushed using the sort of Australian theme and background. Now, I should point out that this was only a small factor in the brand's success, but in my mind, this was a crucial one in having the clarity that was vital for their decision-making going forward. So just imagine if you mapped out your market or even a specific competitor, then identified a space that hooks into what will be important to people in the post-pandemic world, something that you can really own. Okay, so moving on to people. For this one, I've chosen relationship types. So by understanding the type of relationship you have with your customers and how that changes throughout the customer journey or customer life cycle, then it helps you to remain sharp and relevant to them. These are the 5 most common relationship types. You have the marriage of convenience, the friends with benefits, you have a fling, you have a secret affair, and the one that everyone wants, which is the loyal and committed relationship. So to put these into context, what I've got here is a live client example that shows how this changes over time, helping you to adapt to your relationship and the communications you're doing. So this is for a spa brand. And from research that we did, we understood that the spa purchase is 100% emotional purchase. And that when a customer goes to a new spa, they're very much in the fling frame of mind. Because it's an untested expectations, and the relationship you have is just new. It's a leap of faith. So after the experience, the language that follows should be about reminding them of the emotional gains that they get from the experience that they had. Then once they become a repeat customer, then they move into the friends with benefits category, where they bought into the experience and they're enjoying the advantages of this particular spa experience over any alternatives. So the language will change and become more personal, because there's a chance you'll have data on the types of experiences that they use and what they enjoy and what they don't necessarily enjoy. So you can make that a lot more personal to them. Again, reminding them of the emotional gain they're getting. And then finally, when they become regular customers and they're now loyal and committed because they don't go anywhere else, now they're your best advocate. And this is where the language can change to be rewarding them, doing recommend a friend and things like that, where it's appropriate and relevant to the type of relationship that you have. So you can reward them for spreading the word to new customers and reminding them of the emotional gains that they have. So it's a really good way of identifying what type of relationship you have within any part of your life cycle with your customers. Okay, and then finally, personality, which is really all about culture and building strong cultures, but that's a long burn. But within that, tone of voice has a role to play. So I've included this matrix here that helps you understand how you talk now and how you might want to express yourself as an organization. And it helps build a picture of your brand and your brand's persona in people's minds. So most organizations end up here by default. And this is because it's a safe place to be, and it's risk-free, and no one's going to get fired for speaking in this way because it's, like I say, risk-free. But the question is what do you want? What kind of picture do you want to build in the minds of your customers? And this is a great way of starting that process, or asking that question. So I've got an example here of two brands that deliver the same product, the same service, but express themselves in two very different ways, and they position themselves in the market in two different ways. So obviously, neither of them are delivering a product at the moment because of the situation, but they both fly people across the Atlantic, and they both provide an excellent service. But in terms of how they position themselves in their tone of voice, they're very different. And the brands are very different as well. So British Airways, for example, is very subservient in their language. They are, they know exactly what's expected from them and what their customers expect, and they present themselves in a way that they to deliver that. They're very traditional in what they do, but there is a little bit of bounce in how they communicate, and they do that through their advertising or their email communications. Whereas Virgin Atlantic, very different. The Virgin brand itself is very different, but Virgin Atlantic, they are very celebratory and unexpected in how they present themselves. Very conversational, and also they are the brand that promotes themselves as flying rock stars across the Atlantic. So it's a very different type of customer base they're after, and a very different type of experience that the customer is expecting, but they provide the same service. So it just gives you an understanding of how you can present yourselves and how you make that work. So that's it from me. Thank you very much for listening. And if you want to know a little bit more, there's a little ebook that we've got here that helps you in transitioning that change. But also I'm going to be hanging around on my virtual stand for a while. So please do come and join me and ask me any more questions if there's no questions you've got their questions here. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sean, thank you. That was great. Really interesting to hear from you there. Thank you very much. As we just watch a few questions come in, I just wanted to ask you a little bit from my perspective, to be honest with you. And it comes from who you involve in these types of conversations within an organization, what level you involve really within a small business. Is it the marketing manager that looks after this and then maps it all out, or do they have to get buy-in from their colleagues? And how, in your experience, has that worked?
I guess it's the same. The answer is the same for every business. I think you need leading lights within the business to come together, people who are listened to and respected. And I think if you can get them in the same room together and then run them through a process, you can get a unity. And then what that does do is that stops anyone who feels that they're not involved being a saboteur to it, or coming in with questions that have already been answered. So I think it's all about getting everyone together and getting a consensus.
Okay, brilliant. Sean, actually, that's maybe sparked a few people to ask a couple of questions here. So let's whiz through these. Karina has asked, how do you best position your brand if you have such a diverse range of products and audience type?
Okay, I think the answer to that is probably understanding what's important to your different audiences and finding out if there is a synergy between all of those. And that's a good starting point, I think, to then look at how you can position yourselves for those different types of audiences. It might be that you need to position yourselves differently for different audiences. There's different expectations, but I think that's probably quite a dangerous place to be, because it's harder to then manage that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Karina, for your question. Nikita asks, how do you balance this if you need to reach both a B2B and a B2C audience?
Okay, we've got experience with a couple of clients who do both of those things, and I think the answer to that really is similar to the previous answer. Is about understanding what your B2B audience wants and what your B2C audience wants, and what matters to each of those, and really to find out how you balance what you do and how you present yourself across those two markets. Essentially, B2B and B2C is the same. You're talking to human beings, individuals at the end of the day. And I think with what's going on with this strange social experiment, I think it's proving that B2B is still very human, and it's not these faceless organizations. So I think you can be a lot more human in both markets now.
Okay, and following on nicely from that, we've had a question in that asks about tone of voice placing a brand after COVID-19. It's a bit of insight or some of your knowledge with regards to how you'd approach that.
Well, all the talk at the moment is about empathy and about understanding the situation that we're all in. And I think that's going to then proliferate into the future. I think there is this cold business communication, I think, is probably had its day. I think people are going to expect more from businesses. I think they're going to expect more humanity from businesses. And what that means is that we as individuals have a responsibility within those organizations to be as human as understanding as we can. So I think that's going to have to come across in the tone of voice.
Okay, brilliant. And lastly, guidance on stimulating change from a traditional tone to maybe a bolder one. Do you have any guidance for that?
You need everyone at the table for that one. I think you've a good test or good experiment using that matrix on that last slide is to get everyone to position where they think you are now and how you communicate now and where you think you should be, and to see if everyone puts you in the same sort of area. And if they do, then that's great. That gives you something to go on and a good conversation to have. But if you're not, then I think you've got to get everyone pulled in the same direction first before you can really do that.
Right. Okay. Brilliant. Well, that's all the question and answers. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through those with me, Sean. And again, thanks for your presentation. I'm sure everyone that was watching found that really useful right now. Certainly some things to take away. If you want to continue the conversation with Sean, as he mentioned at the end of his talk, he has a stand in our virtual exhibition and he'll be manning that for the rest of the day until 2 p.m. Katie, my colleague, has just popped a URL for that in the chat. If you just copy and paste that, unfortunately it's not a hyperlink, so you do have to manually scroll over it, copy it, and then paste it into your browser. Sean will very promptly head over to his stand and he'll be able to continue the conversation after that. So please do feel free to head on over there and continue the conversation. So again, thank you very much for joining, and thank you everyone for watching, and we look forward to you continuing the day with us and joining us at some of the other webinars. So brilliant. Thanks again, Sean.
Thank you very much. Thank you.